some questions for you. Hey, brave girl, how you do the things that you do?
Welcome to the Brave Talk Show. Brave women, bold topics, nothing is off the table. In today's episode, we are talking with Dr. Shamieka Dean in an interview that's just going to blow your mind. We're really going to be learning about how to work on ourselves so that we can actually have a healthy marriage. She's got an incredible story, a story of marriage, divorce, and then remarriage, and what she learned along the way. It's a powerful episode, so if you like it as much as we think that you will, smash that subscribe button so that you can connect with us on future episodes as well. All right, before we jump into our interview with Dr. Shamieka Dean, we're going to start with our favorite segment, which is our hot topic. And my question today that I have for all of you that I want to know is, what is your all-time favorite chick flick and why?
I love Teresa's hot topics. They're like so sweet. When it's me, I'm like, what's the worst thing you've done in your life? Hers is just...
Every time we always get nervous whenever somebody announces the hot topic because we don't know until and we're like.
Although I have asked some controversial ones before, like what's on your bedside table. Like I was looking for dirt, and all of you guys were like super innocent.
Don't play her as innocent.
Yeah, whatever.
Just kidding.
No, I'm not.
Okay, chick flicks. Let's hear it. I know what mine is.
All right.
Mine is Ever After.
Oh,
that's one hot. Yeah,
I can watch that over and over again. I actually
That's
just
a hot
introduced
one.
it to my kids, to my 13-year-old daughter.
yes.
Oh, we swooned together.
And it's such a good movie to be able to share with your 13-year-old daughter because the character, Danielle, is like a strong Cinderella, you know? So that's obviously I'm jumping in kind of stealing your answer, but why do you love it?
Because of that reason, like I love that she throws the apple at the prince. Like, she's just a doer. I can tell that she's tough and doesn't sit by, and she's not a damsel in distress.
Yeah.
Like when she goes to rescue her servant from being imprisoned. I love that aspect of it. And I also love that I don't feel like it's a female objectification movie. It's not about her body. It's not anything like that. Like, plus the prince falls in love with her, and there's just...
Yes, and he's enamored by her.
I love that. I
strength,
know.
right?
It's a great
That is a
movie.
good
I
one.
do
Yeah,
like
That's
that
a good movie.
Yeah, I like that.
All right, who else? What are you
Mine,
guys'
I don't
favorite?
think people know mine. Mine, it's called Brown Sugar. It's like high school couple, they're falling in love. You guys have to go watch it. It's a black film.
Where can we find it?
It's on, I think right now it's on Netflix too.
Netflix? Okay.
or Hulu.
What's it called?
Brown Sugar.
Brown Sugar.
All right.
It's literally a cute chick flick. We
All
can
right.
watch that. And I think same thing, introduce it to our kids because it's just so cute.
So what's the general like plot line?
It just, two sweethearts falling in love. And it's just like the typical, like you watching and you're like, I want this to be me. Like, you know.
Yeah,
True love.
just a love story.
It's a
Yeah.
love story. It's really cute. I don't want to give it away because it really is like, you're like, oh, you're watching it, you're like, oh, even when you're married, you're like,
Right.
I wish. Yeah, Brown Sugar.
All right, Brown Sugar. I'm going to put it on my list.
Yeah.
All right. What about you, Robin?
Oh gosh, what is the silence?
She's got a couple.
I'm
She's
not
battling in
silent
her
very
mind.
often.
No. All of yours have triggered new movies inside of me.
Should I share mine and then you keep thinking and narrowing it down?
Okay.
Then
All
you
right.
might just trigger it even more.
Yeah.
So I love all the movies with whatever the girl's name is, Drew Barrymore. I love all the Drew Barrymore movies, but I won't pick another Drew Barrymore movie, even though I have to say it's probably a battle between 50 First Dates, which is a Drew Barrymore movie. Oh gosh, it's weird. I should probably give an answer, and I'm the one that came up with the question. Okay, I'm gonna go with How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. I actually just watched it.
I love that one. That's a good one.
Yeah, I love, and I don't know why I'm so forgetful right now, but the actress in that, she's Kate Hudson. She's Goldie Hawn's daughter.
Yeah.
And I grew up on Goldie Hawn. Like I watched Overboard, and my mom loved Goldie Hawn. So there's a lot of the Goldie Hawn qualities that I just love in her character in general and just in her looks. But I actually just watched that movie the other night, so that's why it's a little more fresh in my mind. And I wanted to pick something other than the other one that I was
Can we
thinking.
just admire Kate Hudson's gold dress on that movie cover too?
Oh my God.
And you know what else I admire on that movie? She's actually pretty flat-chested. and I'm a pretty flat-chested person myself,
You
and so
really not that flat.
I
I don't know.
noticed.
I'm
I'm wearing
like,
some
you know,
padding.
okay.
So trust me.
I don't have that problem.
Not problem.
So I notice it a lot because it's been
Enough
something
place.
as I've gotten like through my whole life that I've been kind of self-conscious about, and I'm finally in my 40s finally at a place of like I like my body now, even my small chest. But I've always looked at movies and like how like what they depict as beauty, and it's not very often that they have a lead so obviously like they didn't put any padding on her or anything. She was wearing tank tops with like double A's, like that was it, and they didn't do anything to change
But
that.
I think
and
back then
she's
the body
beautiful.
image was, you know,
Was flatter?
Yeah. When nowadays it's like the whole like BBL.
You
I
just
think
want
back
what you
then.
don't
Big
have,
booty.
like,
Yeah.
cut 'em
Yeah.
off.
Yeah.
I love to just completely flat.
Give me those double A's.
Yeah. Okay.
Did I make it worse or
I'm
easier?
going off on a limb here. The Notebook.
Oh, yes.
I feel like
Okay,
you just
yeah.
that has to be in.
And you
top one.
cried, you
You
laughed.
cried. I died together.
I'm the
old.
only person on the planet that doesn't
Oh,
love
don't-
the
you
Notebook.
didn't love the
What?
Notebook?
You didn't love the Notebook?
The rain scene.
Oh my gosh, the rain scene is like
Anytime it rains,
everything.
you have-
Tell me what you want.
Why didn't you
watch
talk
it
to me? I wrote you letters for 7 or whatever is it for like
Yeah.
1 whole year, and
Right.
she's like, I read it.
The rain. And that.
Oh,
and then they died
Brittany.
together.
And they died together. Brittany, it's a love story.
They die together?
You have
never
to
even
maybe
seen
read
it.
the book. Maybe read
It's
the
been a
book.
I read the
Long
book.
time.
Did you read it?
Sparks. Yes.
Yes, it's such a good book.
Read the book and
I actually
then watch the
do
movie.
think the movie's a little better than the book,
Yes.
only because for me, the book had like all of their love notes back and forth for each
yeah,
other.
yeah.
And I was kind of like, okay, you love each other. Let's get back to the plot line.
Yeah.
Like, so I kind of skipped through some
Yeah.
of the love letters because it was a little bit much for me, but it's so
It's so good. You have to give
Okay,
it
I
your
need to
full
go home
life.
and
Yeah,
watch.
go back. That's a classic. I
Yeah.
want to die with someone.
Wait till it rains.
I want to
Like
find
today.
a rain scene. Yeah,
Like
rain.
today it's raining,
You have
just
to
get
wear-
in the movie.
Wasn't she wearing like white?
Yeah.
It's like you're gonna rain. Like you don't wear color.
Yes.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Have you
Note to
seen it?
self.
You know what's the other
I
good
saw
one?
a long time ago.
You know another good one? A Walk to Remember.
Oh, walk to anymore.
Okay, and that soundtrack
I listen
is
to that.
The
amazing too.
soundtrack
I
is
listen to that all the
amazing.
time.
Oh, that one.
I'm so glad you brought that one up. That's
That was
a good one.
Yep.
Yeah, it's
Indeed.
Good question, Teresa.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. Well, I think that's interesting you bring up the Notebook because that's a story of like breakup and then they come back
Oh, yeah.
together. And now we actually have our guest that we're going to be interviewing who has a story kind of similar to that, right? So excited to move on to that part of the show. All right, so let's jump into the heart of our episode today, and that is talking with Dr. Shamieka Dean and hearing her story of marriage, divorce, remarriage, balancing a happy marriage and family with being a business owner and just doing all of the things that she has been called to do. She's got an incredible story. She's an award-winning business owner and social thought leader. She is the #1 marketing solutionist when it comes to business owners, organizations, and corporations. And while she believes in the power of work, family first is her foundation, and she lives by it. Legacy over labels is a quote that she lives by. She doesn't believe that success means that you have to sacrifice yourself or the ones that you love. By learning to hang up the hustle, she found a way to systematic 6 figures by automating 90% of her sales, allowing her to prioritize spending time with her family, finding peace in God's presence, and truly enjoying her life. And she is going to be sharing how this marriage, divorce, remarriage, and that whole part of her life played a huge role in what she stands for and how she helps other people be able to carve out the life that they've been called to as well. Dr. Shamika, we are so excited to have you on the show today.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, so I'd love to just start off by just hearing a little bit about where you are at now. Like you're married, where do you live? You know, you've got kids. What are you doing with your business? Just like a brief picture of today, and then we'd love to jump in and hear more about how you got here.
Awesome. So today, I will actually be 28 plus 13 in 7 days.
Nice.
So excited about that. I am still happily married to my husband. We will be celebrating actually 17 years in September. I am a mother of 3 and a grandma of 2 little glam princesses.
I love that.
I'm still out here, you know, helping people to market like a mogul, building their businesses, and most importantly, helping to change lives and legacies by teaching men and women across the globe how to build their businesses without burning their life to the ground.
Amen. And I imagine, this your story with your husband and that whole beginning played a big role in what you stand for today. I'd love to just hear, how did you guys meet? What was marriage like at first that led to the rest of your story?
We actually are from the same area. Our families knew each other growing up, and we actually met in a club.
Love it.
Don't
be shy.
I always tell the story about how I almost turned him away because he had on the ugliest Dr. Seuss socks that were like cow high. And when he was approaching me, in my mind, I just knew this was not going to be a thing because I didn't like his socks. I did not like what he had on. But I'm so glad I was able to get past the socks. Well, in the first part of our marriage, what I tell people is that I was a single married woman. And what that means is that nothing about me changed except for my last name. I just took on his last name, but I still thought like a single woman. I still behaved, like a single woman who I had the mindset that I really didn't need a man. I could do it all by myself. And so because of that mentality, it caused a lot of friction in our marriage. Also, just not knowing really what a wife was supposed to look like, and he not knowing really what a husband was supposed to look like. So going into marriage and not knowing who you are as an individual, and then trying to come together to create something when you don't have a really good blueprint is what led to the brokenness within our marriage.
So what happened? Was it like, did you say, we got to end this? What did he say it? How did that come into play?
I believe what happened was we both were at the point where we felt as if there was no hope, so I don't believe in playing the blame game, because in every marriage, every individual has their issues. I just fully owned mine. And we've thrown divorce out there plenty of times, and one day it became a reality. And so that's why I started to live by the quote, if you make divorce an option, it becomes a reality. And so we made divorce an option. And of course, the more you add fuel to the fire, eventually it's going to catch, a blaze and burn everything down. And that's where we were. We didn't know how to communicate. Neither of us, I don't believe, truly understood what love was. We had an idea of what love was, and we were just very immature and did not know the ingredients to a successful marriage. So we argued day in and day out. We couldn't agree on anything, whether it was how to discipline the children or what the roles and functions were going to be inside of our marriage. There was not just one thing. There was a combination of so many different things, and it just built disaster in the end. And so he actually filed for divorce. Well, he asked me for a divorce, and I had asked him for one previously. So at that point, when he said, I think we need to just go ahead and get divorced, I immediately said, okay, because I was fed up. There was no hesitation. I just immediately said, okay, fine. Because we were just at that point where we didn't feel there could be any restoration or reconciliation.
How many years were you married before you guys were divorced?
7.
I hear that number, that 7-year itch, right? Like that's kind of like that number where it's like, okay, we're either going to do this or we're not anymore, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So, 7 also biblically, it means complete. So at that point I was like, yep, we've had our run. Let's go,
Let's wrap it up.
Yeah.
Let's just call it quits. Right. But yeah, we just did not know how to do marriage. We didn't have a lot of healthy examples of marriage. Both of our parents had been married and divorced. And just looking throughout our families on both sides, there was no true blueprint to follow.
So what did divorce looks like? Because I know it's like a divorce and you got remarried, but like what did that look like with co-parenting and?
So the process of the divorce, I don't think some people, if you've never gone through it, the pain of a divorce is horrific. Even when you're tired and you're fed up, the pain of actually going through the divorce is horrible because we had children. The children didn't understand why, mom and dad couldn't get this thing right. So I remember the day that I got the papers out of the mail was on Valentine's Day. I got the mail, the final dissolution of marriage out of the mailbox. And I almost hit the pavement. Like my knees got weak and I went into the house, walked up to the stairs. When I got to the top of the stairs, I just hit my knees. And, I just bawled, just cried my heart out. And I said, God, how did I get here? And I remember the pain being so intense. I literally prayed and I said, what do I have to do so that I never have to go through this type of pain again? It was just that hard. And while I'm praying, crying my eyes out, I hear God say to me, pray for his new wife.
Whoa. Wow.
Yeah.
And that's from God, because that certainly doesn't come from our flesh.
That would take a lot out of me.
Immediately, I thought it was the devil or I was delusional. Like I thought I had lost my mind. Okay. So again, he said, pray for his new wife. Me being as sarcastic as I am, I said, cool. I'll pray for his new wife, but I'm going to pray for my new husband too, because I still got some good years on me and I'm not going to be by myself for the rest of my life. Right. So long story short, what I didn't realize was God actually had me praying for myself because I wasn't a wife. I was a single married woman.
Oh, wow.
So I started to pray for these characteristics because I also thought about our children. And I wanted to make sure whomever he married was going to be a good fit for our children, right? So I started praying for the qualities in a woman that I would want to be essentially, eventually another mom to my kids.
Wow.
But I had no idea I was praying for myself the entire time. So that was the journey.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I went through the journey of healing from all of the things that actually negatively impacted our marriage and that were preventing me from being the woman I needed to be first before I ever became anyone's wife. So it wasn't so much of me just, wanting to get married again. It really was God saying to me, you need to heal, because if you don't heal, you're going to go through this again. It would just be another man, different name, different face. So I had to go on that journey of healing.
So for people listening who either aren't married or maybe they're struggling in their marriage and they're listening to you and going, oh my gosh, this hits home. Like, I don't know who I am. Like, how can I be a wife when I don't even know? What advice, what are some things that you think women should make sure that they have cleared in their mind and in their soul so that they can be a wife? Like, what do they need to have by themselves first?
That's a really good question. What I would tell any woman is to know who you are first, know your identity, and understand that you had a purpose before you become someone's partner. And the reason is because you don't want to find your identity in him. You have an identity before him, and you don't want to make your marriage an idol, right? Yeah. And so those things are very, very important, because I went through that. When the marriage ended, I had no idea who Shamika was. Outside of being a wife and a mom, I didn't know my purpose. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know the power that I had. I didn't know the value that I brought to the table. So I was expecting someone to do something for me that I hadn't yet done for myself. And so that's what I would tell any woman: before you consider marriage, know who you are, understand the value that you have, and also understand that you don't find your identity in your marriage, in a man, or any of those things. The value that you have, all of those things are internal, because you don't want to put yourself in the position to where if someone walks away from you, or things don't happen the way that you think they should, that you don't know who you are.
What about for women who are already married, and what is your advice for them on how to find themselves while still staying married?
Even those that are still married, there are things and there's a purpose that you have. And I always tell, when I was teaching purpose coaching, I would ask them, who would you be? How would you show up in the world if no one would judge you? Who would you be? How would you look? How would you dress? How would you wear your hair? What are the things that you would do on a daily basis? What kind of dreams and aspirations would you have? The child in you always like to do certain things, and there's a reason, because that's a part of your purpose, right? I always like to tell people what to do when I was younger. And my mom used to always say that I was bossy. I wasn't bossy. I was a leader. I was a natural born leader, right? And so again, when you start thinking about the things that you gravitated towards as a child, before someone told you that who you are wasn't good enough, or what you aspired to do was impossible, go back to that place, and you will unlock the true identity and purpose in which you were created to live on this earth.
Amazing. So when this happened and you were having these breakthroughs during this year and a half where you were separated and divorced from your husband, were you working at this time? Did this get you into coaching? Like, obviously you came to recognize, I'm a leader, right? What were some of the revelations you had about yourself, and then what changes did you start making?
Yeah, I was actually working at the time. I was in corporate America, working for a financial institution as an assistant manager in their customer service department. And I actually got fired from my job. So I didn't choose it, it chose me. But I just believe that sometimes, though, those situations, that God will allow us to be so uncomfortable that it pushes us into our destiny. And so that's what happened to me. The job that I was working, everything became so uncomfortable. It was almost as if I was walking into a place where nothing made sense anymore. And that's how I actually got into entrepreneurship. But the epiphany that I had about entrepreneurship was, if you have a story to tell, you have a product to sell.
Oh, I like that. Trademark that.
Yeah.
Thank you. So every product that I've ever birthed, every business venture that I had, there was a story attached to it, right, as to why I got started. And my story at that particular time was the story of my husband and I divorcing and remarrying. And that's how I got into speaking and relationship coaching.
I want to talk more about, so how did you know that you could remarry him?
Yeah.
Tell us that side of the story.
Okay, so I didn't know that I could remarry him. I was done, right? The whole idea of remarrying him was not, it was just not a part of my plan. However, I ended up being caught in the winds of a tornado, and I suffered injuries to my spine.
So literally a tornado.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
So I suffered injuries to my spine, and my husband, he came to the house for the weekend so that he could get the children for the weekend. So he asked our son where I was, and they said, well, she hurt her back. She's in bed. He was on his way to check on me. I could barely walk. I was actually crawling to the bathroom. That's how bad my injuries were.
Oh my gosh.
And so he said to me, let me take care of you. He said, I know you don't need me, but let me take care of you until you're better, because you really can't take care of the kids by yourself. So we had a bonus room. He slept in the bonus room. I slept in my room, but he bathed me.
Wow.
He cleaned,
Wow.
he cooked, he took care of the children. He did all of those things. When he
He
nursed me back
served
to
you.
health, yes. So when he nursed me, back to health, he was getting ready to leave, and our youngest son, the little matchmaker, he said, "Daddy, doesn't mommy look beautiful?" And my husband said, "Yes, she does." And he said, "Well, why don't you take her on a date?" And and so he asked, if we could just go hang out as friends, and that began the restoration journey.
Wow.
So
Now,
did,
oh,
go
on, you-
ahead. Did you guys then find, when you said we're dating each other, I think I'm also a great believer, like when you go into marriage, you want to be dependent only on yourself. Then did you start seeing the sign of growth between the two of you guys, like the things that were missing before? Like, how was that? Like, what was the eye opening on that? Like, oh wow, like we've changed.
Absolutely. Yeah. I could see just his responses and how he handled me differently. When we didn't disagree, how he was learning to communicate better and those types of things. So I just saw the changes in him. And I remember asking, God for a sign, like, is this real? Is this something that is just going to fade away? Right? Like, is it just one of those honeymoon phases? Um, and as I was praying and asking God, that those questions, my husband then asked me, "What do you think about us getting remarried?" And so after that, that's when we started going to counseling, because we knew that we didn't want to go back into it the way that we had, before. So we started going to counseling to get the skills and the tools that we needed to actually build a healthy and happy marriage.
Wow.
so was he doing anything during this time on himself? Like the man that came over to your house and served you, was that the man that you had originally married, or would he have not done that? Like what happened? What was going on his side that was leading to these changes that you
He
already
was
seen?
talking to Yeah, he was talking to his own mentors. He had mentors that, he had been talking to unbeknownst to me. He had been talking to the pastor. He had been talking to his father and, other men that he actually would listen to and admire. Um, as far as him serving, that's his heart, but it was different. He's always been very kind and giving, but it was just, he was different, and I could see it in his eyes. I could tell in the way that he handled me. And just him putting forth the effort to actually show that he was not the same man from the past.
And I think it's a great way to look at your story, because a lot of the time, especially in our culture here, we get married so young. Like sometimes we don't even know ourselves. And then in our culture, we get married and we have children, and then sometimes we're just barely trying to make it through. And I think it's great to realize that, like, we're not mature enough to continue on this journey. But then because it was meant to be, because sometimes it doesn't happen for everybody. Divorce, doesn't end like that for most people. But to like go and put the work within yourself and do what you need to do, and then realizing like that's still my person.
Yeah.
And I think that like it's great to acknowledge, because it's hard to acknowledge that within the heart of a marriage when you've had children and everything. So I think it's a beautiful way to look at it.
Yeah, I agree. And when Vanessa is talking about the culture, just to get clarification, like we're talking like
The Utah culture.
we're in Utah here, so there's a very strong LDS culture here. But I would say even in the evangelical Christian community, because of both of those faith communities valuing purity, unlike the rest of the world that's like, hold off to marriage, go live your life, go do all the things, and then settle down. I think with both the LDS community and the evangelical Christian community that really truly believe what they believe, they're more likely to want to get married young because they're trying to like stay pure and like, you know, like just be with that one person that you're called to do, and family is very important. But the negative side effect is that if you don't know who you are yet,
Yes.
then it can lead to, yeah, you're married, but you're unhappily married. So, you know, that balance. So I heard a couple of things that you've mentioned that I think are worth noting. One, knowing yourself and how important that is to a healthy marriage. Two, when struggling in a marriage or going through, you know, a divorce or separation, you know, not only working on yourself so that you can heal from that, but seeking mentors. It seemed like both of you guys were very good to like seek mentors to learn from, because we have our limits in what we're capable of doing. And then third, if you're wanting to actually make the marriage work or get back together, counseling. That's so important. And both people being on board with the counseling. It sounds like you and your husband were both involved in wanting to actually make this, you know, this marriage work if you guys were going to get married, and versus just one spouse wanting to get counseling and the other person going, I don't need it, you know, that kind of a thing. So I think those three are really great. As far as what your marriage looks like today.
That's going to be my question.
Yeah, would love to just hear, like, what does
What
a
does it look
happy
like?
marriage look like today? Yeah.
It looks like two mature people, you know, making a decision to commit to evolution. Not just loving who we are in this moment, but loving who we are also becoming. I believe that one of the biggest mistakes is that we, or assumptions, I would say, is that the person we marry is going to be the same person 10 and 15 years from now. And it's not. I'm not the same person I was 3 years ago, right? And so neither is my husband. But what we did commit to doing was, let's continue to learn to love who we are also becoming. It also looks like clear communication, but not just communication, comprehension, understanding what I'm saying instead of just hearing what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You know, and also being intentional about loving me the way that I receive love and not the way that you just want to give me love, or enough to satisfy you saying that you're showing me love. So that's where we are now. We're both, you know, running a business. We're both very active. You know, he's a pastor now. He's in ministry. I'm in ministry as well. And the other thing is not expecting me to be the version of me that's comfortable for you, but expecting me to be the totality of who I am, and you choosing to love the parts that even make you uncomfortable at times. Because, you know, those places of comfort mean that we're just not growing. There's no challenge there. And so that's where, you know, that's where we are now. And it's beautiful. He declared Thursdays as date day.
Date
So-
day, I love it.
Date day. So we have, you know, dates. We are really, really big on family first. So although we're building businesses and all of the other things, nothing or no one takes precedence or priority over our family.
I love that. I guess for our viewers, so this is going to be a loaded question. So for the people that are in a marriage and maybe contemplating divorce, I want to hear one thing that you can give them to kind of figure that out. And then for those that are divorced, what to kind of help through that process. And then if they are thinking of going there, what you would kind of like your key point of those three things you would recommend?
So first I would say, is it a bad moment, a bad season, or is it a bad spouse and a bad marriage, right? So I would ask that question, because oftentimes we can focus so much on that moment or the season that we don't really realize that that spouse is not a bad person and the marriage isn't bad. They're just things that need to be worked on.
I love that.
I think,
Right.
like
So
right now,
I would start there.
that
Go
just,
ahead.
Sorry, it just made me think like, so one thing that I wish people talked about more was marriage postpartum. Because babies rock your world, and when you are, I don't know, my marriage has been struggling lately since she's been born.
Yeah.
And I'm like, nobody talks about this. And so when you said, is it a bad moment, a bad time, like, or a bad spouse? It's like, no, like, this is totally just a bad moment for us. And things will get better. We'll get back to those dates. We'll get back to, you know what I mean, regular life where we're not sleep deprived and at each other's, well, not at each other's throats, but enjoying each other's company, I guess. So I really appreciate that. It's hitting home for me. Thank you.
Yeah. Now I have another question. You obviously are a strong, independent woman in many ways. Obviously, family first too, and so there's a lot of just the beauty of marriage too. But you also come from a faith, background and so forth. I would love to know, like, as a wife, and also a businesswoman and in ministry and so forth, how are there any misconceptions, or how would you help any woman who's trying to be like a good wife but also live out what she's been called to do, whether that's in business or anything else? And it seems like it can be difficult for some, because there's a lot of beliefs of what submissiveness looks like and what a role of a wife needs to look like. And you seem to have I just admire you so much. You seem to have really been able to figure out, like, how to, and at least from my perspective, how to do it all. So I would just love some tips from you and for our audience, like, how do you do that? How do you be a wife? And is there submissiveness in that? And what does that look like compared to what some people think it's supposed to look like?
I think that submission has been erroneously taught. Submission is not a form of slavery or self-sacrifice. It's not what submission is, right? Submission is understanding that there is a mission for both you and your spouse, as well as your marriage. And you think of it as if you're in partnership with someone, and you begin to just make all of these changes without communicating with your partner, it's going to breach trust, right? And so I think that a lot of times that's kind of what happens when a woman who maybe in the beginning she thought submission was to just give up herself for her husband, but she realizes that she had a purpose before her partner, and God didn't cause that purpose to die. So she starts going after those things, but she's changing and he doesn't understand what's going on because all he knows is the one he married. So I understood that including my husband on the journey and the changes that I'm having internally and going through those changes is what helped him to understand and be willing to be a part of the journey as well. Because again, it's just like if we signed a contract, right? And the contract says these are the terms and conditions. And then all of a sudden I go over here and I just breached the entire contract. I haven't communicated with you at all. So now that partner feels like, what are you doing? Because this also impacts, his life as well. I don't think that there's balance. I think that there is priority. And in every relationship, every, season, you have to choose what's priority at this particular time, but also making sure that you communicate and include them on the journey. That has worked wonders for my husband and I, because I was the woman who woke up one day, I found my purpose and I just went for it, and what he saw was a woman that he no longer recognized. But I didn't understand that that's how it made him feel initially. And so once I understood that, I said, I can see how how that made you feel. Like I woke up one day and decided to cut all my hair off on the side,
A whole new person. Here you go.
And they say when a woman, when she changes her hair, she's about to change the world.
The world, that's what I was about to say.
Yeah, so
change your hair. I change the world every time.
Yeah, you're speaking to Vanessa. Vanessa has a different hairstyle every time she's on the set.
It's the beauty of evolution.
Exactly.
It's just expressing all of the parts of yourself that make you so wonderful. I love to change my hair a lot as well. So we are right there together.
Yeah. And I think I love, I think just to kind of come to it, I love like how you talk about, codependent, like depending on yourself. Like, because I think when a lot of people get married, and I know we are supposed to come as one, but I think we get lost sometime in the marriage. And then because we get lost, we become to resent each other and,
Yes.
has more issues. So I think it's good that what I'm hearing from this is like, when you get married, you still have a purpose. And you still have your own, and I think we've talked about this before, you still with a person within your marriage. And I remember one of my professors always says that when I took I think it was like a marriage and family class, and he's like, I still go to and he's older, and he's like, I still go and hang out with my friends. I go and do things. I go on trip with my guy friends. She has her own kind of person, and she has her own business. I got my own thing going on. Because then when we come back to each other, we have so much more to talk about. We have so much more to look forward to, instead of being like, we hear it's us and it's us together. So I think I'm a big believer in that. Like, I'm my own person. Like, this time, your host like, no, like he joked, he's like, no, you tied with me. I'm like, I'm my own person. Yeah. Let me live my life, okay?
Yeah.
A marriage requires two whole people,
Yeah.
not two half people trying to make a whole.
Yeah.
That's
two
it.
whole.
And you don't become unity is not about losing your individuality. I think it's really
Steal
not.
that.
My
taking notes.
individuality.
I know. I'm gonna steal a lot of this stuff you're saying.
Yeah, our individuality is the asset. It's the bonus. It's the the value, the good stuff that we bring to the table. That's why they say opposites attract, right? It's because those things that make me uniquely me are going to be a part of the ingredients to make this marriage as beautiful as it could possibly be. But if you ask me to conform for what's comfortable for you, then that's when resentment comes in, because I was never created to be a version that someone else wanted me to be. I'm only created to be exactly who God has called me to be, just as I am, because who I am, how I am is enough just as I am.
I guess my
Amen.
last question. Yeah, it's great. How do viewers that are talking and watching, how do they have to start that conversation with a spouse? Because a lot of people are in that relationship and they are looking to find that individuality. Like, how do they go and start that conversation with their significant other? Especially if they've been sitting on a wall for so long as a mom and a wife.
Yeah.
Being honest, I had an honest conversation with my husband, and I just said, I am so unhappy. And it's not because of you, it's because I don't know who I am. I don't know who I am outside of being your wife, and I don't know who I am outside of being a mom. And that's not good enough for me. I want to be fulfilled. And I explained to him that the happier I am with myself, the more amazing of a wife I can be to you. Yeah, right? True. I was like, so you won't have to worry about bedroom boom or any of those things. It would be okay? But I need to be myself.
Will get better.
I have to be happy so that I can be healthy and whole and be, a better woman first and then a better wife to you.
I love everything you've been saying.
Yep.
I feel like I can take so much note.
Yeah.
Especially me too, because I listening to you, I'm like, oh, there was so many times I'm like the independent thing, because I think like I work in a field where marriage doesn't work a lot for family, and they're splitting up because of the kids and the title, and because they lost themselves within that marriage. So I think the biggest thing, it's like, and you see it all the time. One thing I've been seeing a lot in this mama group is like, I'm drowning with my children. I'm drowning. Like, I want my own, like, how do my husband expect this and this and this? And these people have been married for 10, 15 years. And so it's trying to help them, like, how do you get out of that to own yourself? And I don't think it's ever too late to do that. So that's what I got from this. Yeah. So thank you so
Definitely.
much for.
And I also got that last important part. It seems like as we're evolving, keep the communication going. If we're communicating all along the way, then there's not going to be this shocker of like, who are you?
Yeah.
Because they've been kind of in on the whole experience. Is there any books or podcasts or anything that you could recommend for our viewers to listen to help them on their journey of figuring out who they are, so that they can be happy and be the wife or the single person that they've been called to be wherever they're at?
Yes, definitely. A couple of my favorites of course, my book, Positioning Yourself to Be a Wife.
Love it. We'll
It's
put it in the
not,
links.
it's because it's not a book that teaches you how to be a wife. It really is a healing journey for women, teaching them how to heal and be whole first as a woman, so that they can be who they need to be to the world, not just for their husband, not just for their children, right? Another book that I absolutely love is Believe Bigger by Marshawn Evans Daniels.
You know that
I've
book?
read that book. It's a great book.
Yeah, amazing book, very practical, things that you can implement. And then Michelle Obama's book too about, becoming. And I think that we have to understand that as long as we're on this earth and we have breath in our bodies, we are still becoming the best version of ourselves, as long as that's who we choose to become, and that's our pursuit. So who you are today is not even all that you are created to be. Like, there's so much more greatness within you. And just committing to that journey is what I believe life is all about. So I would definitely recommend those.
Awesome. Well, we'll put the links to those books in the description box, along with your links as well to your books. For all those who are watching and they want to start following you, because I know I follow you, and you obviously talk a lot about business because you're in that and you help corporations and so forth. But one of the things that I also glean so much from you is your posts and content that you create on mindset, on knowing who you are and what you've been called to do. And you say things sometimes that are like, whoa, like you just blew my mind. Like you flipped the script on a lot of things that I think like. And you have me think differently. So for those people who want to get inspired, whether you're in the business community or not, definitely you want to hear Dr. Shamieka Dean. How can they follow you? Where are the best platforms?
The best platform, if you want to see the totality of who I am, would be Facebook, because I have so much fun on Facebook. Dr. Shamieka Dean or Shameika Dean. You're going to see me crack jokes. You're going to see me talk about my children, my husband. You're going to get some of these business strategies. You're going to get mindset shifts, because I believe that belief systems become birthing systems. So, you're going to get all of that. If you just want to see cute pictures and videos, Instagram would be your place. And if you want to hear me talk about God a whole lot, you probably want to go to my YouTube, because it goes down over there.
I love it. And then is your YouTube channel, we'll link that below too. Is that also Dr. Shamieka Dean? Is that the name of it? Okay, perfect. Well,
Yes.
Thank you so much, Dr. Shamieka, for being on the show
thank
today.
you.
We've
Thank
really
you so
enjoyed
much.
it so much.
Thank you. You're welcome. I enjoyed it as well. Nice to meet you, amazing ladies, moms, and keep doing what you're doing. Keep impacting the world. You all individually have amazing stories and journeys that the world just needs to know more of who you are. So don't be afraid to show up as your authentic self, 100%, no matter who likes it or who doesn't, because the people who are called to you are looking for the authentic version of you. So thank you so much.
Amen.
Thank you.
All right, that's a wrap for this episode of The Brave Talk Show. If you're watching us on YouTube, there are more episodes that you will love on that window to the right, and we will see you on the other side. Bye. Bye.
I have some questions for